Okay, Poppy.
Popeye. It's Popeye.
No, the cat is Poppy. Listen, I got to tell you, this morning, my alarm went off at 6:30, and
Ew.
I hit snooze, and all of a sudden, I hear a rumbling up the steps, and then something slam into my door, and it's Poppy. Poppy heard my alarm go off, ran up the steps, slammed into my door, and I hit snooze, and I look over at the door, and underneath the door is this paw up underneath the door, like trying to figure out how to get. I'm like, my God, I am awake. Okay, fine. I won't hit snooze.
I will get your food for you.
You said Poppy, and she looked at me like, what? And then I was like, yeah, he's talking about you. And then she turned around and looked at the screen at you.
Cats. My cat comes to my door as soon as I flick a light in the morning. It's like, all right, I'm ready to eat. Oh, hey, Poppy. Oh, you're cute.
Yeah, she is a cutie. She's actually a very sweet cat. Very affectionate. She'll play fetch, which just makes me laugh to no end.
It's the best.
Yeah, she's...
Our dog didn't really play fetch. So the fact that this cat plays fetch.
How long have you had the cat?
It's not our cat.
It's our son's girlfriend's cat.
Okay.
She's a temporary boarder.
Yeah, that's what they all say.
But she's been here about, what is happening here? She's been here about a month.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Temporary.
All cats start as temporary. No one ever actually wanted a cat to live with them.
Oh. I mean, my belief. I do
tell Don's a dog person.
My belief is that animals belong in the woods. So.
Then buy a house in the woods.
Here's the thing. I love animals. I do. Here's one of my least favorite things in life, and this might make me instantly unlikable.
You just sound like you were about to say, "I have a gay friend." I like cats. I really do. I had a cat once.
I have a cat.
But here's the thing. When I walk into a house, the first thing I want to experience is not an animal in my crotch or on my butt. That is not the first thing that I want to experience. And
what
with
about
dogs,
the host?
That's different. That's different. That's different.
I mean,
back me into a corner, But no, I don't want that. I don't want it. And you'll never convince me that I should want it.
Listen, I don't know that there's a better way to know who a human is than to understand their hygiene and what they ate in the previous 24 hours.
It could be true. It could be true.
I mean, listen, dogs have a much better track record of kindness, compassion, and love than humans do. So, I mean,
I agree. That's what I'm saying. I do love them.
There might be something to the sniff.
The sniff is the way of peace.
And to imagine no one is logged on early.
That's unfortunate because this is
comedy gold. Yeah.
Oh man.
All right. Well, good evening, folks. I hope you are having a wonderful week. I hope that things have gone well and beautiful and good. And I am just excited for you to be here tonight. We have an interesting conversation that's going to be happening that Tana is going to kind of help lead us into because she's a huge Super Bowl fan and couldn't stop watching all the ads and has been enraptured, emphasis on raptured, by one of the set of Super Bowl ads that came up this week. And that was from an ad agency or a conglomerate or something. Tana will go into the details of an ad that the kind of catchphrase is he gets us.
Conglomerate.
Anyhow, so if you have any questions or anything like that, all questions are welcome. Put them in the chat. If you put a Q and a colon, it makes it a lot easier for us to be able to track them, find them, and present them to the group. Please consider doing so. Then I also ask that you please be kind, generous, and compassionate to other people and their questions. And with that, Tana, why don't you kind of kick us off a little bit here and tell us about this "he gets us" thing?
Okay, so this is something that I actually looked at last year because I don't remember if you pointed it out to me, Don, or if I just happened across it on Twitter or something. But He Gets Us was, they started their campaigning and such in March of last year. And I became aware of it like in the fall or something. And I remember looking at it and at first being like, well, dang, they're doing what we want to do, but they have a budget for it. And then I started watching some of the things, like reading some of the things more closely. And I was like, this isn't sitting well with me and I can't figure out why. So we're going
You're a
to
party
try
pooper.
to talk about, yes, well, that's neither here nor there. But we're going to kind of talk about that tonight. So anyway, He Gets Us. They've been doing these ads for a long time, but they really kind of just got a whole bunch of attention last night and today because they did 2 Super Bowl ads. And the gist of the ads, if you haven't seen them,
They spent about $20 million on Super Bowl ads.
Yeah, and the entire campaign, at least when they announced it last March, is $100 million. And so they have billboards, they have TV ads, radio ads, like things like that. And you can find most of them on their YouTube channel. So anyway, so the basic gist is it's like a rebranding campaign. Exactly. Jesus in the media. It's a rebranding campaign for Jesus.
For Jesus.
The people
Amen.
the people behind this feel like
Jesus
needs a rebrand.
Jesus needs an identity workover.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he needs like a personal.
Let's look where the real problem is. The real problem is Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
Not any of the other people that. Yeah. Right. So the problem is Jesus.
Yeah,
he's got a bad rep.
So I'm trying to figure out where to begin. So basically, they'll do these ads that'll show a whole bunch of things like a whole bunch of people fighting and about like politics, and then they'll be like, Jesus hated politics too. He gets us, like things like that. And they use a lot of language that on the surface sounds very inclusive. Like the surface level of it looks very progressive. You know, it looks very liberal. And in fact, a lot of the things they say are things that critiques of the church that like evangelicals, people are deconstructing, like, you know, progressive Christians have been making, you know, they're like, these are the things we've been saying, kind of a deal. But it always feels like there's like a little twist. So one of the things that after that initial encounter with He Gets Us that made me suspicious is who's behind it. So it's funded by the Servant Foundation, whose financial arm is the Signatory. And that group has donated over $8 million to Answers in Genesis and over $50 million to the Alliance Defending Freedom. And Image Consultant, that's what I was looking for, Image Consultant. So, and the Alliance Defending Freedom, if you're not familiar with them,
I am,
one of
because
the founders,
I'm free.
One of the founders is like James Dobson, Alan Sears. He is somebody who's done a lot of legal work. And the Alliance Defending Freedom, they drafted the Mississippi abortion law that eventually led to Roe v. Wade being repealed. They're behind a lawsuit now to allow businesses to discriminate against LGBTQ individuals. They have a lot of stuff like that.
So Tana, can I ask? I just want to maybe, before we get in a tither, I want to back up and just talk about what is wrong with these ads, even if it was not backed by evil conglomerate.
Well, I was going to get there. I wanted to give like the background on the organization.
Well, I guess part of the reason I wanted to maybe think about it, just the ads by themselves, is that the ads by themselves are problematic. Without, as soon as I hear James Dobson, I'm done with whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It could be, saving puppies from burning houses, and I'm like, I'm out. James Dobson's involved. So yeah, I was just thinking that maybe, but yeah, go ahead. You already had something planned.
Would be the church.
Yes, that is a legitimate criticism, Amanda. So, and if they say that they're not affiliated with any particular churches, but they also say that they hold to the, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, the Lausanne Covenant, which was the unifying Lausanne Covenant, which was the unifying document for evangelicals back in the 70s. So it's very like marriage is between one man and one woman, like, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So there's some other things that I could point to that from people within the organization. We could maybe bring those in later, but those are the main things I wanted to lay out. Yeah.
A quick question about that. They say on their own website that they hold to the Lausanne Covenant?
No, that was a spokesperson when I think CNN reached out for comment, or
okay, because
I don't know. I read immediately too many things today.
I mean, just before we get into any of it, immediately they're taking political stands by signing on to that covenant. But
right, and Amanda is right. The Hobby Lobby CEO David Green has also donated a significant amount of money to.
Yeah, of course. It's the usual usual suspects.
Yeah, the usual suspects.
Yeah. Yep.
So, so getting to the ads, Don, are you able to maybe play one of them? Like if I
yes, if you would have mentioned YouTube this link? An hour ago.
Oh, you can't.
No,
you can't.
No.
Okay, it just was a thought. I was like, oh shoot, we should probably.
Did you actually see that? I didn't watch the Super Bowl. Did you actually see one of the ads?
I did, and then I went to their YouTube page and I was trying to figure out which one it was, and I couldn't remember. I was like, one of them was this one called "Be Childlike."
My understanding,
the virtues of children, but
I read some of their stuff today, and just the beginnings of Jesus was tired of politics too. Like, yeah. I know you don't like politics, and neither did Jesus. That right up front is just incorrect.
Yeah, Jesus was killed because he liked politics.
Of politics. Like, I literally just before this made a response to someone who said, I made a video on TikTok critiquing the so-called revival in Asbury University. And someone was like, why do you have to be political? I'm like, well, everything is political. Everything. And if you're tired of it, it means that it doesn't impact you. Like, you don't think that the ramifications of politics impact you in a way where it should be heated. Like, this is a you can pretty much guarantee that if a person says, I don't like politics, I'm tired of them, they're probably going to vote Republican. That's a pretty standard response by someone that I've experienced. Like, oh, politics. This is maybe before the Trump era, but it's just this like ambivalence to something that literally impacts every aspect of our life. I don't understand. And I think it's the messaging within evangelicalism where we're taught that politics and religion are two totally different things, and they just don't intersect at all.
Yeah. So they have one that says that about like the Jesus hated politics too. The one thing that I think like I Don, I think there's a lot that's problematic about almost everything on their website, but this one feels like almost like the worst one. And so I wanted to read at least parts of it. And
Amanda,
it's
Amanda said evangelis. I just have to. That's hilarious. Evangelis. Sorry.
evangelis.
Continue.
Oh, is that
Like,
candy for evangel? Like testaments? Do
No,
you remember
it's
those?
except this comes with a bit of THC.
Oh, geez.
sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tana. I just had to bring
I
attention
have
to that
so many
amazing.
jokes, but that I should not say, so I will not. So there's one page of theirs is did Jesus face criticism? And
Nah.
then they have an ad attached to that called the influencer, and so many interesting things about that ad. Anyway, so it says we live in an era of social trends and influencers who mold the culture around us. Considerations about the impact of the influencer voices greased the cogs in our minds and shifted our attention to one of the most famous influencers to ever live. Jesus had a following, to say the least. People came to him. Blah blah blah. Okay, so this is no different from the thousands of subscribers or followers that influencers boast on today's social platforms. And just like those influencers, his message was not without its detractors. They wanted him canceled.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So there, and then the commercial, if I'm recalling correctly, um, it says like, yeah, Jesus was canceled. He was killed on the
Oh.
cross or whatever. So
But
they,
see, this is why I
yeah.
don't think it matters who is financially backing this, right? Like, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that almost plays into their hand. Their hand is, oh, you're just going to reject us because we're Republican, but our message is good. No, your message is actually not even good. And I think this is where AOC got trapped, because AOC called them out and said Jesus wouldn't spend $20 million on a ad to promote fascism. And they're going to be able to replay that bit. And let me tell you, their response to AOC was calm and even.
Mm.
And they just kind of responded. They didn't get defensive. They just said, we believe Jesus is for all people, blah, blah, blah. And they gave a really and what they're going to be able to do in this is say people can't argue with the message. They can
Right.
only hate the messengers. And
Right.
I don't think so. I think we really are better off not talking about who the messengers are and point out the flaws of the message, because the message is bad. The message sounds good at first glance, but the moment you press on it, the moment you read their website, the moment you do anything beyond a wow, that was a refreshing way to hear Jesus talked about in public, the moment you move past that, you realize that this is actually built upon some pretty it reminds me of Tana, you talk about this frequently, the moral not the moral majority, the white moderate pastors from MLK.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they're doing. They're doing the white moderate piece.
Civility.
Well,
yes, civility,
but,
professionalism, and civil discourse, and all of this stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, one of the reasons why I think it's important to note who's behind it is because it feels like they're trying to adopt the language of the very people that they criticize all the time. Like even like Charlie Kirk, that conservative youth guy, actually criticized this from the other end and said that the people who got involved were duped by woke tricksters.
Amen.
So
Amen.
it's like I don't know. It feels disingenuous because they seem to be purposefully adopting this language to kind of like trick people into going to their site and getting involved.
So I have a thought about that. One of the aspects of the niceness campaign, which is what Don was just talking about, it's just like, is that there is a narrative around liberal, atheistic people that they're angry, they're mean, and they just hate us. And so because evangelicals have a martyr complex, this enables them to have even more of one. And it proves it. What you just said about AOC, it's like, wow, look at all the vitriol. And then now they're aligned with Jesus, who also faced vitriol. And then it's like the step away from and then vote this way it's a very small step. So it's like, it's not just this nice, let's just be nice because Jesus is nice. Well, first of all, they get Jesus just dead wrong. They get Jesus dead wrong. I mean, we could start there, Don. But like, this whole thing is an attempt to further the martyr complex, I think.
And detract and I think from that's what real issues are.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's where one of the reasons why I mean, comparing the crucifixion to being canceled is just gross. It is just gross. But another reason I found that horrifying was because I feel like now people are gonna be like, well, Jesus was canceled too. I mean, I'm just saying the truth. I'm just,
that's gonna be
what
a
I'm saying?
t-shirt.
Like
that's gonna be a t-shirt for sure.
Oh, you know what? They probably have it.
Don't look it up, please. Please do not look it up.
Don, what are your thoughts about what they get wrong about Jesus?
Well, first of all, I think the main thing they get wrong is that I don't think Jesus does get us. I think we are so far removed from the things that Jesus stood for, the things Jesus fought for, the things that Jesus was crucified for. Like, I want to know which one of the people who wrote the script, who did the filming, who did the editing, who did the promoting, who did the media buy, who did the negotiations, who did all of these things, which one of them has stepped into spaces in which their body was at risk of murder in order to defend the marginalized and the oppressed?
Yes.
Because if any of them did that, then Jesus definitely gets them.
Right.
I just don't think that what we have attempted to pass off as Christianity remotely is similar to what Jesus experienced in the first century.
Right.
And I think that's a hard pill to swallow. It's right up there with when I tell people, you were not the audience the Bible was written to. Right? Like when people are like, the Bible was written to me, to us. And no, it was not. It was written to an ancient, oppressed, marginalized people.
Right.
And somehow along the way, the ideas behind that book of justice, mercy, compassion, and salvation of the oppressed and poor was compelling enough, or threatening enough, more likely, that powers usurped it and gave Jesus a, what was it that Amanda referred to it as earlier? Became image consultants for Jesus.
Right.
In converting Jesus into a big fan of the oppressor. She did not log off. She just decided to close her camera. I think she's going to beat the cat. Just so everyone knows, if you hear the cat crying, it's because Tana is beating the cat. We've had conversations about this, and I said not to do it on camera.
It needs to stop.
So
I would never. beating up my closet doors, so I kicked her out.
Turning Jesus into instead of the antagonist to empire, to the spokesperson of it, is what's
Brilliant.
behind this campaign,
and is brilliant.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I mean, Tana and I were talking earlier today, and this really is the opiate to the masses of evangelicals.
Yes.
Who the evangelicals thought that faith was getting away from them. That, okay, maybe we went too far. I would love that they thought that. Maybe we have missed some of the point. Maybe this is getting icky. Look at all the people that are leaving. And this has become a way for them to go, oh no, I remember cute, fuzzy, cuddly Jesus.
Right.
He was the best.
Yes.
He would sing me to sleep at night. He would rock me. He would do all these things. And not to say that Jesus was not a kind, compassionate, loving human. I imagine Jesus was.
Mm-hmm.
But Jesus was also determined, stubborn, angry, and aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can be both those things at once.
Yeah.
And the problem is, and I would argue evangelicalism, is that it's been the second half of that list, angry, stubborn, aggressive, without the kindness, the mercy, the compassion, the justice piece behind it.
Yes.
And I think they're realizing that now. They're having a come to Jesus moment, and they're really hoping that Jesus gets it. Right? They're really
really want him to be on board.
If this is my come to Jesus moment, I hope this is the Jesus that gets us, because
they're coming at it from the wrong angle. Like, we're supposed to get Jesus, and we're supposed to, understand Jesus, not the other way around.
I want to be clear, Poker Stiff. It was Tana that was beating the cat, not me.
I was not beating the cat. Don't even joke about that.
Then why did you shut your camera off?
They're witnesses.
Because I was taking her. You want to know why? Because I was taking her out, and I didn't want to have my butt turned to the camera.
You just admitted it. You took the cat out. There you have it, folks.
There you have it.
Valentine's Day tomorrow is going to be wonderful in the Schiewer household. It's so good. It's going to be a glorious love fest in the Schiewer household tomorrow for Valentine's Day.
The love fest. So here's what I'm curious about, because I haven't seen a commercial, but I'm curious about who they're gearing the advertisements towards. So
younger people, Gen Z.
Millennials. I would say millennials.
Okay, so here's where I was wondering, because they'd be stupid, and I would say this, that they're not stupid. They would be stupid to try to advertise to millennials, because we're done. We're done. But here, we've seen enough. But Gen Z would easily take the bait of, you know what, millennials are kind of annoying. They don't like us. They really don't like us. They would be willing to be like, you know what, this thing that they've abandoned, maybe they're wrong. And I could see if these ads were directed towards Gen Z and younger, whatever that means, that would make sense to me.
So here's my theory, and it's only a theory.
Let's hear it.
Is that it's propped up to look like Gen Z, but it's really for millennials. And the reason I'd argue it's for millennials is because millennials have felt insulted many times in recent years by Gen Zs, because Gen Zs are making fun of millennials not knowing how to operate things such as TikTok. Like on TikTok, I think there's the millennial pause when you start recording. And there's like these different kind of needling that Gen Z does. And so this cool ad is going to hit millennials more than it hits Gen Z.
I'm so interested.
Because most of the Gen Z I know, they're not over Christianity or over religion. They're just non-religious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like they're over it and they've abandoned it and they've walked away. Yeah. I think that this is a message for people that have walked away, that is saying, no, there's some good attributes of Jesus to bring them back. And I think Amanda is on point here. We know it's not for Gen X. Nothing is for Gen X.
No, nothing's ever for Gen X.
You guys, I was talking about this with someone the other day. What Gen X doesn't get enough credit for is the emergent movement. So you guys gave birth
No. Wait. Stop.
That's you guys. That's you guys.
Stop.
It is.
I think it's really important not to blame us for anything.
Mark Driscoll.
Do not blame us for lighting candles. For lighting candles in church.
Yeah, I'm blaming
regardless of what the fire department says about lit candles in a public space, we will have our Jesus with scented vanilla candles. Okay?
I'm not getting off. I am not backing down from this. Gen X gave us the emergent church. Millennials gave you evangelicalism. I am curious what Gen Zs are going to give us.
Listen, I'm still calm. No, I will not. I will not be anchored by this bullshit. No.
We were deconstructing before y'all were.
That's what the emergent church is. That's what I'm saying. The emergent church was deconstruction.
Oh, now you're playing it off like, oh, I was being kind by saying the emergent church.
No, I am.
God, I hated the emergent church.
No, I know that. I know.
But it
what
was
I'm saying
the
is
spark. It was the beginning.
They were deconstructing. They were like Rob Bell and who were those other guys from Minnesota? They were all a bunch of white dudes, obviously, but like they were deconstructing.
Solomon's Porch and
yes. Who? Yeah. What was that guy's name?
Solomon's Porch.
Yeah, it was in North Carolina by Duke.
I forget the names, but yes. So now I'm curious.
And there was like there was like a church called like Church of the Pond Scum or something like that.
That's out of Seattle, the grunge movement.
Yes, you had to wear flannel and flippers to that.
Millennials gave us beer and Bible.
That's Gen X. No, that's Gen X
because
emergent. It is because I'll tell you this. I went to in 2011.
Amanda nailed it right there. I have to. What? I can't deny Red Moon Rising.
I don't even know what that is.
Exactly, because you're not Gen X.
I know. I'm not. I'm a Zennial.
You're too young.
You're just a pup.
I'm just a little baby. I'm just pup. But I am an elder. I'm an elder millennial. So
I was gonna say you're an elder millennial though, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I am. I will say this. I do think the millennial ship has sailed. I think that we've seen too much. And if you haven't been either jaded by evangelicalism or sold into it by this point, you're just not going to be convinced by fluffy Jesus. You're just not.
I would say it's going to be the generation after Gen Z that has some form of return to faith.
Yeah. To the evangelical faith.
Well, I hope not, but I mean, I think that there'll be some movement towards a return to faith in a more structured way, like a church, or synagogue, or mosque, right? Like in a more formal type idea.
Relevant.
Yes, Relevant Magazine. Although I will say, Relevant Magazine was the mechanism by which one of my dearest people in my life came into my life. So I am grateful because they found a little ad in the back of churches that were listed by Relevant Magazine that were relevant. And church at Hanover, because we lived on Hanover Street.
We were in Relevant?
Yeah, I did big marketing on it. We had like a $20 million budget. Don't you remember? There was a Super Bowl ad that year.
That's how I got to know you too. It was
I did the Super Bowl ad. We were in Relevant Magazine. I talked about how Jesus doesn't only get us; He's one of us.
Oh, amen. Here's can we get let's get back to that part for a second. It was there. Jesus, okay, you can't emphasize enough how little Jesus is connected to us. When you said that the Bible wasn't written for us, it couldn't be more true. We are the people the Bible was written about, against.
Yes, I always say on Easter, You are not on the side of the street that Mary and the apostles are weeping and gnashing their teeth on. You are on the side of the street that is gambling for the clothing of Jesus.
The closest image that we have to this is in James Cone's book, The Cross and the Lynching Tree, where people on Easter, white people, would go to a lynching after Easter service. They would do this. And while Mary and John are at the feet of the cross, right, weeping, who's weeping at the body being lynched? Not the people that went to church that Sunday for the picnic afterwards, where they would lynch people unjustly. That is the closest thing that we have to this Jesus, right? And so if you don't find yourself connected to the person that was lynched, then the he gets us thing makes absolutely no sense. It just makes no sense. The Jesus that they're talking about is like not even close to that first century Jewish prophet. It just couldn't be further away.
Go ahead, Tana.
Well, and you just touched on another thing that makes me uncomfortable about a lot of these ads, which is they seem to be using people of color as props.
Of course.
A lot of the ads feature a lot of people of color, and again, in ways that hearken to a more liberal or quote woke or stance, and it definitely just feels like they're being used. Because if you look at, I don't know if there's an actual leadership page of this, but the spokesperson is white. And then the leadership of the things that fund this, it's like all white people, and so
that's because it's white people whose power and just power is in trouble with the demise of evangelicalism.
Yeah.
Do you realize how much power James Dobson is going to lose if evangelicalism collapses? Do you realize how much sway the CEO of Hobby Lobby is going to lose if evangelicalism collapses? Like this is an attempt to be an image consultant for Christianity, not Jesus, right? It's just just a disguise of it being Jesus.
Well, I want to point something out about that, that somebody actually did this research last year when they first started. The he gets us, all of us, right? I would think as any, as a woman, in many churches, I'm like a marginalized piece of the population, right? And I would think, oh, this is for me. Like, I think anybody would think this is for me because all of their ads look so inclusive. But they want to get you to their website, and then they have, first of all, they have like some kind of Bible study plan that I didn't look into. But then they also have a live chat feature.
Curious.
Yeah. They also have a live chat feature that you can use. And some folks last year went on there and posed as like different types of people to see what kinds of responses they would get. And the one person was like struggling with gender identity, and they just got like Bible quotes thrown at them, and like
the Ethiopian eunuch.
Love. I don't think it was that.
I'm joking.
That would actually be a good one to be thrown at them.
Yeah, I was like, I don't understand that. That would be a good one. But but like one person took the stance that their ads were too progressive and everything, and said, so you showed all these people in your ads, like gay people and people of color that were doing rioting, whatever, and said, so you support them? And the person doing the chat said, it would be our hope that all people, regardless of skin color or sexual orientation, come to know Christ and live in gospel community, ultimately to be transformed by the radical love of Christ, which means to abide by his word that we believe the Bible is clear about, speaking to several of the things you just mentioned. And goes on to basically be like, yeah, oh, here it is. It would be our heart to see those people who are living that lifestyle in our world today would repent and turn from that lifestyle. So it feels like a bait and switch.
Well, it's no different. It's not. Here's I guess what I'm wondering about. Like, what is different about this? Like, this sounds exactly like what I grew up with.
It feels different to me because it at least has, well, it feels like a wolf in sheep's clothing kind of a thing. Like, at least I can see the sheep's clothing this time.
But that's what I grew up with, was like, we thought that we were the like religion of love. We believed that. And so we would say all the things that you're saying right now. We'd be like,
That's true.
You're welcome here. And then eventually,
I mean, that's people the ECC, right? The Evangelical Covenant Church is like, oh, you're gay, you're welcome here. And boy, were they pissed when they came to my church when we were a part of the denomination. And it said, we're inclusive. And the response was, I don't know if I like inclusive because it implies that we're not. And I was like, are you? And they were like,
can people participate in leadership that are not hetero? Or, this is what I'm saying. It like, that's all. And the ECC was a progressive evangelical denomination, one of the most progressive evangelical denominations, the ECC. It is. And I know this because I've gone to most evangelical denominations in my life. Like my whole life, we bounced all over the place. And the ECC was the reason that I signed up, because I was already deconstructed. The reason I signed up to pastor there is like, there's hope here as an evangelical denomination. Like, obviously mainline is a different story, but I mean, that's the message we've heard in varying degrees throughout our life as evangelicals. They're just trying to reach the masses with the exact same bait and switch.
Yeah, it feels very like, I was just going to say, it feels very like hate the sinner, or love the sinner, hate the sin.
Right.
I feel like the main difference is right now is that growing up in that space, it was presented from the front similarly, but it was all white straight men, well, or white closeted men that were declaring it.
For sure.
This one is under the guise, as Tana was saying, so many different people of color in their ads, so many different examples of humans who have been marginalized, and they're not necessarily saying it. The text over the top of it's saying it.
Yeah.
Right. The narrator over it's saying it. So you still have the one person from the front, but what's different is the packaging looks inclusive. Yeah. The packaging looks like they're buying what they're selling. And I think that's a big difference that's going on right now. I think it's a little bit easier to fall into this one because of the imagery. You couldn't fool me at my dad's church. My dad's church was obviously, there was the one black person that attended the church occasionally. And God bless them, I have no idea why they would come to that church.
Well, yeah, that's another conversation. But I do think that this is a response to movements like Black Lives Matter. And it may not seem directly that way, but it's a response.
100% right.
Yeah, it's like, no, you got us all wrong. We're not these things, and look at like what's wrong with these people. Like it makes people who are standing up against injustice look like this just angry, hateful people who need Jesus, and that's like they position themselves as now they're the victims of these hateful groups. And it's just, I mean, that they've been trying to do that anyway, but this is like that. No, don't come at us. Jesus loves all of us. And so like if you're gonna, you're gonna say mean things about me, Jesus loves you. That whole thing. Again, that's not new. That's not a new tactic, but there's a lot more money behind that tactic and more diversity.
Listen, Jesus told you to hate your mother, your brother, and your sister. But Jesus definitely loves you.
Amen. And amen.
Yeah, I think no, my brain is
He told a guy, this was my favorite. I remember this one. A guy is burying this was like really close to me when my dad died, right? Like he's burying his father. He's like, and Jesus is like, follow me kind of deal. Or he wants to follow Jesus. And Jesus is like, yeah, let the dead bury the dead. You come follow me. That whole thing. I don't have it memorized, but that's the gist of it. And the dude's like, sheesh, man.
I'm out. I'm good.
Like, I can't bury. I mean, there's obviously some depth to that story, but like the concept that's how intense it was to follow after this guy. And here we are just opening the floodgates. Like anybody can just be part of this movement.
And I think that this is what's backfiring on the church over the centuries, millennias, is as it's become an opiate to the masses, which I don't think it was initially.
No.
It became a way to calm people down. It kept people at peace, kept people from speaking up against. I mean, I think the first person that probably introduced the verse of God puts people in power, that was a person in power who first decided to quote that out of context.
Yeah, Romans 13.
Yep. So it's, to me, I think that we've gone so far at eradicating any potential of revolt by the church, by people of faith against the empire, that we're no longer. So this is now an attempt, as you were saying, BLM and all these others that are non-religious people who have not been or have broken away from the mindset of that opiate, of that calming the people down. And this is the result is you have a lot of people in mass who are willing to stand up and fight now. And they need to find a new way to get the opiate on the streets. And this is the way they're trying to do it. And they're going to spend millions and millions of dollars to do it. Amanda says, the fact is they're completely missing the point. The vast majority of people leaving the church or those who just aren't Christian have no problem with Jesus. I agree with that. I think there are people that are leaving that Jesus is nothing but a spiritual entity, and so maybe they do, but I think for the most part, you're 100% correct. I think Jesus has a pretty good reputation around the world, around religions.
Yeah. What was was it Gandhi that said, like, I like your Christ, I do not like your Christians?
Yeah. I got to be honest, what Don just said was terrifying to me.
I want to hear more about how I terrified you. Having served in the ECC church and governance, I will say this as an example. In most of the covenant churches, if there was an influx of LGBTQA plus and black, brown gangbangers into their folds, as inclusive as they claim to be, they wouldn't know how to deal with it. I agree.
No, I totally agree with that.
So what did
Don,
I say?
Here's why you're terrified. Because the book that sent me into seminary in my 20s was The Cost of Discipleship by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was a Nazi resistor.
Yep.
And his book was
killed by the Nazis.
Yeah.
Right. And why was he writing a book about the cost of discipleship?
Yep.
Why? It's because his culture had become what Jesus, he gets us, is trying to create.
Yeah. And I think that, so I don't know if you noticed, Dave, but I spoke at an annual meeting for the East Coast Conference one time.
I do know this. Yes.
I spoke on discipleship.
Yeah.
And one of the things I said was Jesus never confused the crowd with his disciples. Yet we do it every Sunday morning at church. We assume whoever shows up to listen to the sermon are disciples. They are not. They are the crowd. It says Jesus, when he was speaking to the crowd, it says, and Jesus turned and looked at his disciples and said, go across the sea and I'll meet you there. Jesus wasn't confused. And I'm sure that to some degree, people compartmentalized that into what they wanted that to be about.
Of course.
Right? But the reality is, I don't think everyone is called to be a disciple. I don't think everyone is called to follow Jesus that closely. I think there are people who are called to admire Jesus, to find Jesus compelling, to find Jesus's teachings and ideals to be good. I think there are few people who are called to actually be covered in the dust of this dude, because that dust is going to eventually be what your blood dries up in.
Absolutely. John, there's no place for you in evangelicalism, Don. I think spiritualism might become more prevalent. That could be the case, poker stiff. But Don, the problem with you is that that's not a moneymaker. That is not sustainable for building institutions. Ultimately, when I was planting a church, I was convinced that it was temporary. Convinced. No one could have convinced me otherwise. I thought to myself, if this thing lasts more than 15 years, it becomes a part of the fabric of the city in a way that props up institutions, likely, just from the example of the past. Most institutional religious buildings, communities, become a part of the fabric in a way that doesn't challenge the institutions. And if that is the case, if there are those institutions, they are the exception and not the rule. And so for me, it was like, no, this is a movement in time, and it will likely go away at some point to hopefully give birth to more movements, but not institutions. You're not a gift to evangelicalism if you're saying that only some are disciples and others are the crowd. You're destroying that movement.
Yeah. Well, yeah, at least that's the perception, definitely.
No, I agree. That's what I say. You
Yeah.
are like, you're not like, evangelicalism is about power and advancement. What is Poker Stiff saying?
Whoop. Don always seems to know the wrong things to say in the wrong settings to piss off the right people, but always speaks the truth. I'm gonna get that on a business card or my tombstone, whichever one comes first.
With that one, my friend, which is brilliant. I have to part ways. There's so much more that I want to talk about with this. Tana, thank you so much for bringing this conversation to the table. I'm going to be thinking a lot about it. And I hope the cat's okay.
We haven't heard from the cat since the camera lens closed.
Not because of you, Tana, because actually I think Don is trying to deflect and use you as a scapegoat.
All right, have a good night, Dave. We'll see you.
Peace, my friends.
Hold on a second, Tana. Let me... let's see. We're just gonna... Whoa. It's gonna be all you, Tana. How'd I do this? I messed this up.
It's the Tana Show.
As it always is.
Yeah, okay.
Wow, I do not know what I did. All right, well, you're just going to be like that. How's that? You're going to be in like what is it? 16 by 9.
Oh yeah, whatever.
You're in the movies.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to do something. All right. So, Tana, what else do you have that you want to talk about with this? We have about 10 minutes left.
I was going to say something earlier and then I lost it. I should have written it down. I will say that, some of the things they say, like individual sentences or questions or whatever, are things I could hear myself asking. Um, like one question that they have is, how did the story of a man who taught and practiced unconditional love become associated with hatred and oppression for so many people? And I saw that question on their site, and I actually found myself getting a little angry, um, because because I had looked into what the groups were that were
Mm-hmm.
behind this, and I was like, you guys, like, I just, um, and when I read the piece about the people who went in, they saw this, the initial ads, the original ads, and they were like, what's this? And so they decided to look into it, and then they did that, sample chat feature. And that's, I kind of wondered that same thing too. Like, what's this about? Are they just going to have ads and that's it? Like, is it just like, oh, look at Jesus, he's awesome, yay? But my understanding is there's going to be, or there is, some sort of like affiliated churches group. So I think they might like guide you to a church, and then they
Well,
have
you
this
even said
chat
there's a Bible
feature.
study.
Yeah, there's a Bible study, and then there's this chat feature, and the people on the chat, the things that they were saying definitely felt like, oh, we're going to back people off of this, this progressive bunk. And so it does feel very like, it definitely feels very bait and switchy, that this is like, we're going to use this progressive language to get you here. And then
Amanda said
that
there are
person,
churches listed.
yeah. So the one person I said that was posing as someone who was like, oh, this campaign is super liberal, what are you guys doing? He said, uh, posing as this person, he said, your video on your website makes Jesus sound like BLM or Antifa. Doesn't that start people off on the wrong foot? And the answer from He Gets Us is, I honestly couldn't say either way. I don't believe our ad is meant to make Jesus sound like BLM or Antifa, as he sure as heck was not.
Yeah.
And then he says, it's our hope that those sorts of people would engage us in order to be radically transformed by Jesus. And that was upsetting, because he was like, this person was like, there's absolutely no way Jesus would approve of BLM or Antifa. And I'm like, really?
Right.
So so anyway, yeah, I don't really have many other things to say. It just might be interesting at some point to break down, like, we read some of the stuff off the site. It might be interesting to break down an ad at some point, but it's,
See, the thing is with their
yeah.
ads, I'm not sure that there's going to be much to break down. And I think that's the brilliance of what they're doing, right? Is
That's
that
true.
if you take exception to their ad, you sound like the ass. Right. So it's kind of a brilliant move. It's the whole, why are you yelling? I'm calm. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, it's AOC pointed out and said it was a terrible thing, and that Jesus would never spend $20 million to do Super Bowl ads. And immediately Fox News picked it up and ran with it, about AOC attacking Jesus, basically, and attacking these kind messages that are trying to bring people together. And here is
Right.
AOC being divisive and trying to pull people apart. It is right straight out of the handbook of the mediocre white man.
Yeah.
It's this idea that it deflects. It's saying, why can't we just be civil? Like, why do you have to get so angry? Why do you have to get loud? Like, just
Yeah.
calm down. And in doing so, what it does is, again, supplants the voice of the marginalized with the reasonableness of the oppressor.
Yeah.
And it's just what we're seeing. And I think I am so afraid that so much of individuals are going to trip over that.
Well, and here's something that I think, let me find this.
While you're looking for it, Poker Stiff said, Tana, how he gets us reminded me of my brother-in-law who used to be a pastor, believes with his whole heart that Jesus was a capitalist.
Oh my gosh.
I love your genuine reactions.
Jesus was a capitalist? What Bible are they reading? There's probably a capitalist interpretation.
It's called the ESV.
Okay, so the spokesperson, CNN reached out to the spokesperson for He Gets Us, and asked if the campaign supports and affirms LGBTQ Christians. And I find his response very interesting and telling. He says, the debate over LGBTQ plus issues is a great example of how the real Jesus too often gets lost, overlooked, or distorted in debates over political and social issues. Our focus is on helping people see and consider Jesus as he is shown in the Bible. He gets us and he loves us, and that includes people on all sides of these issues.
Right, but that is exactly right. That is how they responded to AOC also. When people are coming in and questioning, confronting, they're responding with pseudo inclusion.
Yes.
And pseudo,
yes.
It reminds me, you and I have had so many talks about this, Tana. This idea of professionalism is a bullshit concept, right? Like, be a professional. Yeah. What be a professional means is follow the rules of whoever the white person is in charge. Civil discourse, again, follow the rules of whatever person in power made the rules to be. This is just doing that same thing. Like, oh, you can't condemn us because we're just talking about everyone getting along. And don't you want everyone to get along? Why would you be against everyone getting along?
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it definitely. Really,
good.
I was just going to say, it definitely feels like what you were mentioning with churches and the ECC, and where it's the all are welcome idea, when all are welcome does not mean all are welcome.
Well, it means they're welcome, but they're not included, right? One of the things I presented to the head of the East Coast Conference when they came to evaluate whether or not we were too inclusive was, I said, the problem is with the all are welcome, or that everyone's welcome mindset is, I said, I likened it to going to a restaurant. And when you go in that restaurant, it's your first time there, everyone's nice, the staff's friendly, everyone's kind, and you like it. You go back, and the wait staff remembers you. So you go back again. And before you know it, they know your order, they know all these things about you, you know the names of the other people there. And you really feel welcomed. But then at some point, you notice that there's a door marked private. And that door that's marked private, you've noticed over time, different people going in and out of it. And as time passes, you realize that everyone that is in there all the time has gone in and out of that door. In fact, even some new people who just wander in have also gone through that door. You ask about it and they're like, oh, no, sorry, you can't. You're not allowed in there. But you realize that everyone else is going in there. You quickly realize that you were actually never welcomed at all. That you never actually belonged. You were never part of the Cheers gang. You were just a customer. That's it. You were just a customer. You helped them pay their bills, and that's it. And I think I think that that's exactly what's kind of going on here. Don, it's the same thing with the negative piece MLK spoke of in the letters to Birmingham jail. 100%. The letters to Birmingham, the letters from Birmingham jail, are some of the most misused, miscategorized writings of MLK. And when you read the letters that were written to him and the full letter he wrote in response, it's it doesn't take prisoners. No pun intended with it being from Birmingham prison. But yeah, Tana, any other things you want to say before we wrap up tonight?
No, I think we covered everything.
The one thing I would say is I do believe Jesus was compassionate, loving, inclusive. But I also believe he was ferociously against abuse, marginalization, and oppression. And I don't think that Jesus would ever say there's good people on both sides. Even if Jesus found good people on the other side, I don't think Jesus would ever say that. And I think that anything that says that has to be a warning flag immediately, that this is another way that people with power, look, these folks aren't spending $20 million because they love Jesus. I'm sorry. There is much better ways to spend $20 million to demonstrate the love of Jesus than a Super Bowl ad. So you have to ask yourself, why are these people spending $20 million? Look, if they spent $20 million, as Amanda said at the beginning of this, feeding, housing, clothing, caring for the poor, they would make just as big of a news cycle as CEOs and wealthy people putting their money where their faith is as what they're getting from this Super Bowl ad. One last comment here from Poker Stiff. I'm so sick and tired of the sly objections of the church to the LGBTQA plus community and seeing them as sinners, yet the church seems to be more okay with how they oppress the black, brown, disenfranchised. Yeah, the church is, if nothing else, the church is consistently horrible when it comes to genuinely caring for and the marginalized. I don't know how else to say it. Oh, that's such a great statement, Poker Stiff. Oppression of any kind is a vacancy of love. I love that. That's a wonderful statement. You should tweet that. All right, friends. I appreciate you all being here tonight. Thank you. And listen, Jesus might not get you, but here at AJFF, we get you. So just keep that in mind. But we don't have the budget to do a commercial to prove it to you. With that being said, I hope you guys are well. Take care, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.